SparkMES, an MES accelerator for ignition.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, where we'll be exploring Flexware Innovation's MES Accelerator, SparkMES, and today we'll be focused on the inventory management package. My name is Ellie Allen Bathe, and I'm a content marketing manager here at Flexware. Before we get started, a couple quick housekeeping notes. First, if you have any questions throughout today's session, feel free to drop those in the questions tab of the toolbar. Secondly, today's session is being recorded and we'll make that available to you shortly after we wrap up. And finally, today's session is scheduled for an hour, but if we wrap up early, we'll give you some time back into your day. Now that that's out of the way, I'd like to introduce today's speaker. I'm joined today by Eric Moorman, who is an architect of SparkMES. He's been with Flexware for just over 7 years. Eric, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Ellie. Yeah, so like Ellie said, in today's video or webinar, we're going to be talking about is the inventory package of SparkMES. So this is going to follow kind of the same path that we've been going through with the last several webinars, where we've been going through each package of SparkMES and kind of showing each of their features and functionality. So if you haven't seen some of those before, go back and check those out. I think they're on YouTube, so you could check those out. But yeah, today we're going to be focused on the inventory package. Why may you want to use it? What kind of functionality does it do? What problems does it solve? And then we'll get into showing some different screens about it. But before we show some of the different screens, I just want to set this landscape a little bit for what we're actually going to be looking at today. So first off, what is the inventory package? What does it do? Well, the inventory package is meant to be kind of a lightweight inventory solution that gives you control over where your inventory is at in your facility, but then also gives you the visibility of what's currently going on and where the inventory actually is. So there's three main pieces of functionality that you'll see with the inventory package. There is receiving inventory, which is of course going to let us receive inventory into the system. Move inventory, which is going to let us move that inventory around and track where it's at. Splitting inventory, which is going to allow us to take one box of inventory and split it into two different ones. Yeah, and those are the three different pieces of controls that we have, and we'll kind of walk through each of the screens for those here in just a little bit. Additionally, though, you don't want just controls, right? You also want to be able to see where your inventory is at. Is it in the correct places? What do you have on hand? That kind of stuff. And for that, we will have a view inventory state functionality that lets you kind of see every piece of inventory, every box of parts. Where is it at? What quantity do you have? To whatever granularity you need, right? Whether it be to the specific slot on a shelf, or whether it's just even maybe in a general like room or something like that. Past this, we also have a little bit more advanced capabilities. So with the physical inventory counts, so we have the ability to do these kind of, some people call them cycle counts, some people call them physical inventory, but to do an overall look at what's actually in the building. So you'll see when we get to physical inventory, we can give you a sheet of what we think is currently in inventory, and then you can have people go around and physically count those. We'll talk about how we can use that to potentially be able to automatically do physical inventory based on certain repetition for specific part numbers, and all the ways you can go about doing physical inventory. And then there's also pick lists, which pick lists are an important part, especially when you're starting to get into this place where you're integrating with things like track and trace, where you want to say, hey, you need to tell somebody to go grab some boxes from inventory and to bring them to some place to then be used later. And lastly, everything we're doing in the system here, so from the receiving to the pick list, all that stuff is completely audited, and we have a screen where we'll show you where you can see the full history of transactions. And this kind of parallels with the genealogy you get from track and trace to kind of give you that full history of every component inventory. So that's kind of what it does, but then you may be thinking, well, why would I need it? What's the kind of questions that you may be asking yourself that may trigger you to want to take a look at the inventory package? So there's a couple of different things that we see people really wanting to use the inventory package for, right? Or problems that people are having that lead them to this. First is they want to track their inventory state, but maybe like the WMS system or the ERP system that they're using is a little too complex or a little too hard to manage for what they really need, right? You don't really want the management to take more time than actually getting the value you're getting out of it. So as you'll kind of see, since the inventory package is a much more lightweight solution, it can kind of help to give you a little more easier to manage solution. have a couple less like knobs you have to turn. I need to track my inventory state to a more granular level than my WMS or ERP do. A lot of times the inventory package is used in conjunction with a WMS system or a ERP system. But a lot of times the WMS systems and ERP systems may only track inventory to like maybe a specific room, right? Or they say, oh, we have this much inventory in our line, or we have this much inventory in our warehouse. But they don't necessarily care about what slot inventory is in, right? Or what shelf inventory is in. So it doesn't really help you like know where the inventory is at. So some people want to have that more granular look at inventory and where it's at. And in those cases, the inventory package can help give you that. I need to allow the equipment to automatically trigger inventory functions. So I need to make sure that my inventory transactions can handle when some automation is triggering things. Again, if you're using track and trace, maybe you want to trigger, to have some deduction of inventory when a consumption happens, right? Or I want to have to automatically call for inventory when something happens, right? You want to have like some automation and tie it into the rest of your application. SparkMES Inventory Package is very good for that, serving as like the middleman for doing those kind of things. And then last on here is I want to have a common interface to do inventory transactions with my other Ignition apps. Ignition is a very popular platform. A lot of people have it on their plant floors already. And you kind of want to not have, this goes back to the old problem of where, or I guess it's still a current problem, of where you have, your people on the plant floor having to deal with multiple different applications to do their job. And maybe you want to like simplify that down to have a single pane of glass. The inventory package can be very good for giving you a look and feel that you want that's very similar to the other apps your operators are dealing with. So it can kind of simplify their use of the system. So those are kind of I would say the 4 main points of of why you may be wanting to use the inventory package. But with that, let's go ahead and hop into the actual demo and take a look at what the screens look like. All right, so before I get into actually showing the inventory workstation itself and the actual transactions we talked about, I do want to show you a little bit about how the customization or the configuration of the inventory package works. So there's really just 2 main screens you're going to use for configuration of our inventory package. And the first of those is the production model. So the production model serves as kind of, I'd say, the backbone of SparkMES as a whole. That's no different for the inventory package. The production model is your map of how your physical locations actually sit. It comes in a tree format, like you can see. And as you drill down in the tree, you're essentially zeroing more in on a specific location or a specific place inside of your plant. So for inventory, this would mean that I'm kind of saying the structure and the hierarchy of where inventory is at or where I could have inventory at. So for example, here I have this lot. It really should maybe be called rack, but let's say like I have my company as my facility as a whole. I have a warehouse, and in my warehouse, I maybe have a rack 1. And then on my rack, I have 2 slots that I could put stuff in, right? And maybe I have a rack 2 with 2 slots on it, right? So you kind of see we can drill in, and this kind of gives us the granularity of where we can put inventory. Now, where this ties into inventory package is that you can make locations of a type inventory location. And what this means is that this is a location we can put inventory at in the system. So we can kind of control where people are putting things at. It also gives us the ability to do specific configurations on this location that are relevant to inventory, such as restricting inventory types, which we'll talk about inventory types a little bit later. But think about inventory type essentially as the status of the inventory. And so you could say, oh, I want to restrict this to only parts that are of status standard are allowed to be at this location. And then you can also give it a serial number. This is useful if you're doing barcode scanning for your locations, which again, I'll show you kind of maybe how that's used in a little bit. Again, I think leads to really good inventory solutions when you do that. But yeah, so I just go through and I could build up all of my production model. What all locations do I have? Kind of sets the stage for where your inventory is going to go. So once I've built out my production model, then I need to go and define what kinds of things are going to be inside of our inventory. And that comes in the state of what kind of part numbers are we going to have. So if I go to the part screen, from here, this is where I can configure all of the different part numbers that I have in the system. Any part number that can be stored in inventory as a whole. Not really a whole lot of important stuff you have to configure on this, but you can configure for a part number what the actual part number is of the components, right? And then the most important thing here is probably the serialized checkbox. If the serialized checkbox is checked, that means for this part number, the individual components are going to be have their own identifiers, right? Their own serial numbers. So let's talk a little bit about inventory state, I guess, as a whole to kind of clarify that. By default, the way inventory works is it's tracking it by the lot number, which you can think of a lot as just a general term to account for any like container of parts, right? So think like it could be a box, it could be a pallet, it could be a tote, like it could be lots of different things, right? So everything is tracked at the lot level. Now, inside of that lot, you could have lots of different serialized components in it, right? And if you do have components inside of that lot, right, which you're going to have a lot of them, if those individual components have serial numbers on them, then that's when you would check the serialized checkbox here. If they're not, then you just wouldn't check it. The things this is going to do is this is going to give you the option whenever you are receiving inventory or splitting inventory or whatever to scan individual serial numbers that are in the box. So if you wanted to track what serial numbers are in a box through inventory, you can. So that's what that's doing. Additionally, if I hop over to attributes, I'll say the other thing that's kind of in here that ties to inventory is if I search for the physical inventory cycle time days attribute. So in this, I can enter the number of days between when I need to do a physical inventory for this part. So I mentioned before that we can do automated physical inventory runs. So what this would do if I set this to be like 7, then what this would do is every week we would trigger automatically a physical inventory to take place for this part number. So it automatically generate the physical inventory order for this and then make sure it's running. So this is useful for if you have some parts that are like higher importance, maybe you want to cycle count them or do physical inventory on them more often, then this field can help to make sure you're doing those at the right cadence. So, but yeah, so that's really the configuration. So like I said, a lot simpler configuration than you may have from like a WMS system. So pretty straightforward for getting it all set up. And then you can get into the actual execution side of doing inventory. So let's hop over there. So I'm gonna hop over here. And so this is our inventory workstation. The inventory workstation serves as the hub for all of our different inventory activity. And the main screen, I would say in this that you're gonna be landing on is our view inventory screen. The view inventory screen is the screen that lets us kind of get an overview of all the inventory that we currently have in our facility. Where it's at, what slots it at, the different pack numbers, different part numbers, all that fun stuff. So if you said, hey, I want to know where a specific lot is in my facility, I could go to this filter table and I could search for, maybe I'll do egg lot 001, right? And it looks like I have a couple of them that have it in the name, but I can see all of the different egg lots and where they're at inside of my facility through the production model. And I can see, information about their part numbers and all that fun stuff. So just a nice screen for being able to find what you're actually looking for and to kind of get an idea of what's on hand. I could also search egg to kind of get an idea of all my eggs that I have in the facility and where they're at and their quantities. So just kind of gives you an overview of what you currently have in your inventory. Now, you can use this in conjunction as well with the production model. By on the left, if I choose my warehouse here, I can see my production model for this specific location, this specific warehouse, and I can select any location inside of this production model to see only the inventory that's inside that location. So that means it's at that location or at a location below it in the tree. So if I want to say, hey, what all inventory do I have on rack 1 here or lot 1? Then I could click on lot 1 and it would show all inventory, which I have nothing there. But if I click on lot 2, then it'll show me, oh, I have some inventory in slot 1, some inventory in slot 2, and all that fun stuff. So again, just lets you kind of drill in to see, hey, how much more inventory do I have at specific spots inside the facility? So that's view inventory. Really helpful for kind of seeing what's going on. I'm gonna actually duplicate this tab so I can use it. So I'm gonna keep that up because we'll want to see how our inventory is being affected as we're going through some of these things. All right, so now that we've talked about viewing inventory, we obviously need to have some control over inventory too, because inventory is going to change. It's not all just sitting in a static spot. So for that, if I go under my lot here, I have 3 different controls for inventory that I can use. We kind of talked about these a little bit ago, but I'm going to run through them all right now. So first, I'm going to go to receive inventory. So receive inventory is a screen that's going to let us receive new components or new boxes or new lots into the system to then be used in inventory for whatever we need them to use for. One thing I'll say here, the versions of the screens I'm showing are the most, I'd say, verbose versions of the screen, where we're kind of relying on the user to enter in all the information individually. Typically, the less verbose you can make it, the better. And I'll kind of talk about that as we're going through it. But it kind of depends on how your inventory is coming in to what you can really do with this. So first up here, I have to enter the part number. So I'm going to do egg will be my part number. I'm going to go ahead and enter a lot number here. So I'm going to say this is going to be 10, 27, 25. Yeah, that'll be my lot number. Again, lot number is just the identifier for the box that you're receiving. So this could be, some people call it a pack number as well. And I'm going to say there's going to be 50 parts inside of this. So 50 eggs inside of this lot. So this all is kind of where I'm saying I'm manually entering, the box number and the part number and the quantity, and then any other attributes. Like I have expiration date here, I'm not going to enter it, but you could have any other attributes that you want to have them enter. Now, sometimes when you're receiving the inventory into your system, you may get a QR code that has this information in it. It kind of like combines all this information into one. It's really nice when we can just allow them to scan the QR code and then parse the information out. So if you have something, that's definitely something we could do to kind of keep them from having to manually enter stuff, run into issues of not being typed right, that kind of stuff. So, but that's one way that we see the screen change quite often. So next, either whether you do the scan or whether you enter the information in manually, next you have to choose the inventory type that you're receiving. So we kind of talked about this a little bit ago, but the inventory type is basically like the inventory state of this lot of parts. So there's several different inventory types. I'd say the big ones are standard. So standard means that this is a good box of parts. There is quality hold, which means that this is a box of parts that's going to be put on hold. It won't be able to be consumed. It won't be able to be shipped. It's just going to be there until somebody from quality inspects it and dispositions it, which if you want to worry about dispositioning process, that we talked about that in the quality package video. And then there's also scrap, which just means that this part it's still in inventory, but it's set to be scrapped. And so a lot of the same things apply to quality hold, where it can't be, it can't be consumed, it can't be shipped. It's just going to eventually be scrapped out of inventory. And these other ones have some meaning, but those are the big ones I would say. So we're going to leave this at standard for now. And if you did choose anything except for standard, you would have to enter some comments in here. And then I'm going to choose where I actually want to put this. So I'm going to maybe put it in lot 1, slot 1. So I'm just choosing my production model tree. This is the place I would say that we see the second best, the other big improvement to these screens when we're doing inventory solutions. One thing that drives to the most successful inventory solutions is having barcodes on your locations as well as the boxes of parts you're moving around. Because then instead of them having to go in and drill through the tree, they can just scan the location that they're putting it at. Leads to a lot better, because otherwise you run into issues of people are going to go do it, then they have to come to the screen to choose from the tree the location, and they don't really want to do that, so it just ends up your inventory gets off. If we can just allow them to scan the box, scan the location, makes it way easier, right? So a lot of times we'll see us change this to a barcode scan on the right side of the screen. So, but either way, so here I entered in all my information. I entered in the location I want to put the box at. I'm gonna hit confirm, commit, and receive. And that's going to receive that into the system. So now if I go back to my view inventory and I click on lot 1 here, you'll see that now I have my lot received into the system. So, and I can see that in here. So that's cool. Now we've received parts into the system. We know we can bring lots into the system, but now we need to be able to do other stuff with them too, right? Like maybe we want to now be able to move them around inside of the facility. To do that, we would then use our move inventory screen. So let's hop over to that. All right. So our move inventory screen, first we would just require them to scan the box that they want to actually move. Did I put that on my clipboard? I did, cool. So I would scan the lot that I wanted to move, and then it would show me some information about that lot. This is just nice so I can kind of double check that it is what I'm actually pulling, primarily the location I'm pulling it from. Next, I need to choose the inventory type that I'm moving it to. Now, so I'm just going to leave it as standard. Again, if you're ever changing the inventory type, you would have to enter comments about why you're changing it. And then I'm going to choose the destination location that I want to move it to. I'm going to maybe move it to my lot 1, slot 2 now, just moving it from slot 1 to slot 2. Again, I think a good improvement to this screen is if you do have your locations with actual labels on them that we can scan or barcodes on the locations, then you can make the right side just a scan. So it's just, now if you're doing a move, it's just scan, and you're done. Is really, I think, the best way of doing it. But here I'm just going to use the tree. And if I hit commit, and then what this is going to do is this is going to take the inventory and it's going to just transfer that inventory over to this new location. Also, it's going to check any inventory type rules. So if you remember on the configuration screen where we checked, we configured what inventory types are allowed at a specific location. If that inventory is not, the box you're moving is not allowed in that location, then you'll get an error message that says, hey, you can't do that. But great, we did the move. Now that we do that, if I hit, you'll see that it's in slot 1 right now. If I hit refresh, then you'll see that move to slot 2. So we've now successfully moved inventory. Now, one thing I want to call out here, so oftentimes the way that move inventory actually gets implemented, because if you think about it, when you're doing a lot of inventory, you're often on the move. In a screen like this, it's kind of assuming you're going to have like a mouse and normal monitor and things like that. But we can utilize the fact that this is run in perspective, so it's all just web-based in a browser and all that fun stuff. We can use that to allow you to run this on a mobile device. So a common thing we'll see with inventory applications is that a screen like this would actually be run on a Android scanner. So this will often may have a look and feel a little bit more similar to this, which it's where you'll be scanning your lot and your destination location through here. But it's just running on a little scanner that you carry around, scan, and you're done. You just keep moving. So they don't have to carry around like a big screen with them or anything like that. And you don't have to rely on them to go physically do the move and then go back to a computer and enter in what they did, because things are going to get missed that time. So again, anytime you can let them do the scans while they're in the action of doing it, the better your inventory counts are going to stay and the better the system's going to be used. So cool. All right, so we've received inventory, we've moved inventory. Now let's show you the split inventory capabilities. Again, split inventory is really just the idea of taking one lot and making 2 smaller lots of it. So you're trying to take so here, we're going to take the 50 parts we have in our one lot, and we're going to separate 20 of them out into a separate lot, so they can be tracked separately. This is primarily used, I would say, when you are trying to either A, take some materials out to then have them set aside so that they'll get used against a specific order, or if it's determined that in this lot, like some components inside of a lot need to be quality tested, then we'll see people use split to split those bad parts out into a separate lot, put that separate lot on quality hold, and then have the rest still be good. So for split inventory, I'm again just going to scan my lot here. Again, I can confirm that, hey, yeah, this is the right one. Now what it's going to do is I can enter in the new lot number for my new box that it's going to generate. By default, I'm just going to add a -01 to the end of whatever the lot number is, or -02 if it's a second split or whatever. I can set the new quantity, so how many parts do I want to move to that new lot? I guess I say parts, it could also be like pounds or something like that, whatever your tracking unit is for this lot. And then I can choose the inventory type that I want to move it to. I'm just going to leave it standard for me, but I could move it to quality hold if I wanted to set these aside for a quality inspection. And then I choose where I want the new lot to go. So I'm going to go ahead and move these to slot 1. Enter in some comments. You always have to enter comments for a split. And if I hit confirm, and now I go back to view inventory. Oh, I hit the refresh web page. That was the wrong refresh button. There we go. Now I can see my two lots. One's a slot 1, one's a slot 2. They're different part numbers. They're both egg lots, and one has a quantity of 20 and one has a quantity of 30 because we took 20 out of the 50, left us with 30. So these are different controls, pretty simple controls that you can use to actually control your inventory state. But typically, there's not a whole lot of them, but they usually cover most of the inventory cases that you'll run into. And of course, if you need to have more, we can use the extensibility of SparkMES to really allow us to add those new controls into it. Change the screens to match your workflow and all that fun stuff to make sure that it's going to be a successful inventory solution for your implementation. Now, that's really our controls. A couple other things I want to talk about in here. Everything we've done so far has been audited. So we've tracked the history of what's been going on, every move, every receive, every split. So if I were to go here to view inventory, this is where I can see a complete history of everything that's happened inside of with every inventory transaction that's happened. So like if I want to see everything that's happened to the lot that we've been messing with, I can maybe go to destination lot, maybe set this to equals. And then, oh yeah, this one's not. Yeah, maybe if I want to be a little bit more accurate, I'm going to go ahead and just search it up here. And there you can see every time that this has been, you can see the receive, then you can see the move, and then you can see the split. You can see for the split inventory that we had a quantity of 50, we split out 20 to get a final 30. And we moved the inventory to this destination lot. Okay, same thing with all the other ones. So you can kind of get an idea of kind of what all we're doing in these. Okay, and it also tracks with this who did it and when and any comments. So you get all that information. Yeah. All right. So the next two things I'm going to talk about here. So I guess next, let's go over to physical inventory and talk a little bit about how physical inventory functions. So if I go to physical inventory orders, the way this is going to work in physical inventory is you'll create orders for doing physical inventory inside of your plant. So again, physical inventory, some people refer to as cycle counts, but the overall idea is that you're going to have people go through your plant for whether it's certain part number, specific location, or whatever, and then they're going to do their own manual counts, enter those into the system, and then that'll essentially, the system will get updated to match what's physically there. This just helps for any discrepancies that happen. Over time, inventory will kind of probably naturally get out of sync a little bit just because people forget to scan things. So this helps as you kind of level set the system to match reality. If I want to create a new order in here, I would go here to this plus. Actually, 1 second. Let me make sure I don't have any. Oh, I do have these. Let me get rid of these really fast. Okay, and then that's not really what I meant to do. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit here, create a new order. I'm going to call this okay. So that'll create an order for me. Now, this order by default has nothing assigned to it. It's not calling for any physical inventory to happen. If I want to add things to this physical inventory order, then I can go to this plus button up here. Now, this screen is both kind of like a admin screen and a operator screen mixed in one to a certain extent. If you, depending on your roles, these buttons, this folder and this add button here, and this delete button too, may or may not show up, or they would be disabled if you don't have the correct permissions. But if I do have the permissions, I can go to add parts. And so here I can choose what I want to add to this, or what I want to do physical inventory on. So there's two different modes. You can do it by part or by location. If I do it by location, then I would be choosing a specific place for my production model. And then it would call for me to do physical inventory on everything in that location or any of its children. I'm going to do one by parts. So this is where I can choose a specific part number that I want to cycle count or do physical inventory on all of this part number that I have in inventory. So if I do egg, what the system's going to do is it's going to generate a list of all of the things that we think are in inventory that match this. So it's going to give you a list of all of my eggs. So you can see them right there. Tells me where we think they are. If you wanted to filter to all the eggs in a specific location, you could filter those as well. But I'm just going to do all of them. And then I can hit add. So that'll add those into my order in here. And so now you'll see they get the line items. So when an operator came in and was going to do this actual physical inventory, they would choose the order that they got assigned to, and then it would show them all this stuff in here. What this is showing is this is showing what the MES thinks is here, what SparkMES thinks is at. We have an inventory for the eggs, right, and where they're at and what their quantities are. So you can see those under MES quantity and MES location. Then the operator would go through and count them all, right? If they need to change anything, they could go to the magnifying glass to change the location, or they could change the quantity here. So let's say, where is my, I think this is my, so this is my, nope, let me find my one from today. Here's my lot from today. So let's say I wanted to change this to be actually 25 instead of 30. I could go here. Let's uncheck all the rest of them. Change this to 25. Check just that one to say, changing quantity. And then I could hit confirm reconciliation. And what that's going to do is that's going to submit that one record I did because I just checked one of them, and it would have updated my inventory state to, if I refresh, to be 25, right? So it's kind of real-time backflushing with the system to set the inventory state to be match what's physically there. And yeah, your person would just go through all of these, do all the counts, and then enter comments and complete the reconciliation as they're going. There's new lots. They could add new rows into this for those lots. If there's anything existing or that doesn't actually exist out there, they could hit delete to delete it out of the system, and all that fun stuff. I will say this is specifically one way of doing physical inventory. Another common thing we'll see is that people will not want to show what the MES thinks the inventory state is. If in that case, essentially these rows just wouldn't show up, we could certainly go in that mode. These rows just wouldn't show up and they'd have to add the rows themselves as they're doing the physical inventory. And then at the end, we would just compare, we would just set our inventory state to match what they have. So yeah. So that's physical inventory again, and remember too, these orders, if you had configured on part numbers to say run every 7 days, these orders would get auto-generated every week then, if you had 7 days, or if you had 30 days, it'd be every month or whatever. So yeah, these orders can be auto-generated from that as well. So I guess last thing I'll say too is this can also be downloadable into a sheet, so you can download it, and then they could carry around a sheet with all the information, and they could write on it manually. And then they could come back and fill in the information later. So yeah, so that's that. The last screen I want to talk about in here is picking. So to do pick lists and item picking, first we'll go to the assignment screen. So this is the pick list assignment screen. So from the screen, this is where that we can look at all of the different pick list items that we have, and we can start assigning them to different people to actually go and actually get them. So I guess the idea of pick lists is that we can, we have some task we need to accomplish. We need to move inventory to a specific location. And so we need to tell, a fork truck driver or somebody to go grab the inventory for us and to bring it to our specific location. So as those pick lists get generated, this pick list can get generated for lots of different reasons from the system. Maybe it's tag change, maybe it's like inventory getting low somewhere, whatever it may be. Those pick list items would show up on here. So from here, we can actually take these and we can start assigning them to people. So like here, I'm going to assign this to myself. So I'm going to go to hit plus. I'm going to assign it to me. Maybe I'll do the second one to me as well. And so that's all cool, right? So I'm just assigning some items to myself here. So this would then tell the system that, hey, I need to notify or tell Eric, me, to actually go and pick up those items, okay? Now this screen doesn't get used all the time. And in some cases, depending on your rules and how you're doing inventory, we can automatically know who we're going to be assigning to these items, and it would just show up without having to have somebody go through this screen. But this screen's here if we need to ever change things or get around it a little bit. Yeah, so here we've assigned stuff. So now, so this would be probably like a line lead or something doing this, right? Now I'm going to pretend that I am the actual driver in this case. So I would have on probably like a tablet or something, this Tugger app up on my screen. It looks like some of the other ones are right there, but I would see on my screen, I would see this item come up that says, hey, I have a job that I need you to do. I need to move slot 1 this part box number from slot 1 to, well, I guess to slot 1, right? So I need to go and I need to go pick up this. So I would have chosen already what tugger I'm on. I didn't really talk about tuggers at the beginning, but tuggers are locations that I configured inside of my production model. So if I go back here just to show you really fast, I had 2 tuggers configured. A tugger is essentially just the idea of it's like something that can move inventory around, fork truck, you know, like a wagon or something that you're carrying around, whatever it may be. So I've chosen what tugger I'm driving, and because I'm the one signed in, it's going to show me the tasks that are assigned to me. So it says I need to move this barcode, so I'm going to go here to this barcode. I would then go to slot 1 to go find this box. I would find the box, pick it up and put it onto the tugger, or maybe I pick it up with a fork truck. I would scan the box, so I'm going to do this. So I'd scan, scan the location first. So I'd scan my location, which again, this is assuming that you have barcodes on your location. You can see this is why it's kind of nice to have the barcodes on the location, so you can just walk up and scan the location. And then they're going to scan the box. And so we're going to type it. Let's do 4. Okay. And once it's done, it's going to verify that that was in the table and it's good. So that then, what that did is that took the inventory from there. It said, yep, we're good. And it moved it onto the tugger. So if I went to my view inventory and I click on the tugger, you'll see that that lot is now on my tugger. And now I need to take it. So if I go drop off mode, I need to now take it over and drop it off at the staging slot 1, which this was the destination location of this pick list. So I would then, now that I have the inventory on my tugger, I would drive over to staging slot 1. Again, I would scan the location, staging slot 1. And then I would scan the barcode for what I was dropping off. So that's going to be 0410. Okay. And again, that's going to verify that we're good. Since we are good in this case, that would then complete the order, complete that pick list item. It would drop the inventory off. So if I go back to my shipping, you'll see that my lot shows up now in the shipping staging slot 1. That would complete that item, and once you complete all the bomb items or all the different pick list items, it would complete the pick list as a whole, right? And that's just what you'd be doing, right? You get pick list items assigned, the driver drives around, sees the items show up, goes, picks the items, scan, goes over to the destination, scan to drop it off. So this is the kind of stuff that you're doing with the inventory package of Spark. Yeah, so I think with that, that's really all of the different components of the inventory package that I think I wanted to cover. So yeah, I don't know if we've gotten any questions or anything that we want to go over.
Yes, we have gotten a few questions to answer. So the first one there is there a way to alert or stop any scanned parts that were marked as no good in the process of getting shipped out?
Yeah, so this goes into some of the integrations that we have with other packages of SparkMES. So when we were talking about the inventory types, if you remember, there were several of them, right? But anything that's marked as like quality holder scrap, right? By default, any of those things are not able to be shipped out through a shipping package. They also can't be consumed through track and trace. Or anything like that, right? So we have some precautions around those out of the box to where it makes sure they're not getting used or for anything in production, right? They can just kind of be in inventory until they get cleared.
Awesome, thank you. Next one here is there a genealogy or bill of material view?
Yeah, so there is, we kind of showed this a little bit earlier, but there is the view inventory history screen. This would be the genealogy of inventory as it goes through the site, right? Or as it's existed in inventory. So you could just search a lot number you wanted to appear and it would show you every move, every split, every receive that's ever happened to this. This can get paired with our track and trace view or a track and trace package. Where you would actually get a full genealogy of everything happened to a part as it was being produced off the line. So kind of in tandem with each other, right? You can not only get an idea of what components got consumed, but you can also see the history of those components as they were being stored in inventory. So you can kind of, between the two packages, you can really get a lot of idea of what's going on. If you check out the track and trace video, I'm not going to spend too long on this right now, but if you want to go take a look at the track and trace video where we talked about the track and trace package, in this we do include a BOM view where you can configure BOMs that you have inside of how you produce specific things in the process. So we do have that in there.
Great. Next one here, does the MES system show traceability of material from the source destination?
Yeah, so that's kind of where we were talking about with the idea of that you can have this traceability here with the inventory history, where you can kind of see and track as it moves through your facility, every move, every receive, and then in tandem with the genealogy report, where you can kind of see all the process data recorded, every step it went through and all that. You can kind of see, again, from where the inventory came in the door to when it left, you can see everything that ever happened to it. So.
Great. How often are users using the inventory package alone versus with other packages like track and trace?
That's a good question. I would say the majority of times we see the inventory package paired with specifically track and trace. We've seen a couple where we've done, I think one or two where we've done inventory and quality standalone. I'd say inventory really goes the best with track and trace, quality, and ERP integration. ERP integration is nice because that's what lets you connect to an ERP system to backflush inventory as you're doing things, to receive inventory state, that kind of stuff, right? So we see inventory and ERP used the most, I would say, together. But specifically inventory and track and trace, my guess is it's probably like a 70-30 split where you maybe have 70% of the time it's with track and trace and 30% it's not. Maybe 60-40. I'd have to honestly go look to have a better estimate, but somewhere in that range.
Great. And then can you print labels from the inventory package?
Yes, you can. Good question. So we can do label printing on receives specifically is where we would usually do those, and on splits where we're producing new lots. So we do prints from those out of the box. The biggest thing about when you're wanting to print labels is that we would have to just know how you want us to print labels, whether we're doing it through like a third-party service like Bartender, or whether it's going to be done. We can also do like direct ZPL prints to the printers is another option. We do that all the time. So a couple different options there about how you want to do the label printing, but we can definitely do the printing of those labels.
Great. And then last one here, how does the inventory package interact with other packages? I know you explained a little bit, but maybe you could dive a bit deeper into that.
Yeah, so the inventory package, like I said, it primarily integrates with ERP, quality, and track and trace. I guess kind of shipping too, because shipping uses the inventory to know what you're going to ship out the door, right? But I think the two I want to talk about the most here is quality. So the quality package, which we talked about in the last video, it can kind of get paired with inventory to where you can take inventory that we know of and you can take it and put it on quality hold. And then you can take it through the quality package's dispositioning process to then, say, oh, here's all the steps I went through to like test it. And then when you do the disposition, it can tell the inventory package whether it needs to be put on scrap or whether it needs to be put back to standard or all that fun stuff, right? And the inventory package also lets you, if you're moving the parts around while you're doing this quality test, you can track it there. So those two have a lot of integration points with each other and how they work in tandem with each other. Track and trace has a couple of conjunction points from the fact of consumptions. So if you're doing consumptions inside of track and trace, it will automatically backflush and like remove the inventory live. Like so real time as parts are running, you'll see the inventory deducting because consumptions are happening. Additionally, it also gives you the option when you're doing consumptions to require inventory. And what this will do is this will verify that when they scan a box or they scan a serial number to be consumed, that we'll make sure that that inventory actually exists and it's actually in that location. If it doesn't, if it's not, so if your inventory says, oh, it's actually over here, or it's not in the facility at all, then we'll tell the system no. Track and trace will say, nope, can't scan that. It's not here. Try again, right? So it gives you another level of inventory protection. Also, track and trace at the end of the line when it's finished executing. If you're doing pack out or auto pack out, it would then produce inventory to be stored in your inventory state. So you kind of automatically are putting inventory back in. So yeah, a lot of conjunction with the two of those, right? So that's why again we see track and trace inventory used a lot together. But Yeah, and that's just a couple of the places that it's used with other packages. There's more, but those are probably the big ones, I would say.
Great. Thanks, Eric. So that's all of our questions. So thanks again for all of your great insights, Eric, and thank you all for joining us today. I hope you're walking away with some actionable insights to take back to your team. If you're currently using Ignition and looking for a quick and cost-effective path to MES functionality, reach out to us and we can get you scheduled with a personalized demo of Spark MES. We can run through any of the packages as well as the platform in general. If you would like to do that, you can reach out to me directly at ellie.allenbathe@flexware.com, or you can reply to that email I'll be sending you shortly with the recording of today's session. Also, if you want to learn more about our scheduling package, we have a webinar on that coming up on December 2nd. You can get signed up for that at flexwareinnovation.com/events. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Ready to start your Spark journey? Learn more about Spark MES at sparkmes.io.